Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining in. And yes, indeed, fasten your seatbelts because this is going to be one interesting discussion. You know, when it comes to India being at the center of the world development, one sector that has made major strides is the automotive industry. Be it the steps in green mobility, R&D that has been taken on battery tech, as well as the leaps and bounds that we've made in electrification, India has really been at the forefront of it all. So let's take forward this discussion without any further ado. And Mr. Srivastava, I would like to begin with you. You know, just looking at the kind of FDI flows as well that we've seen into the automotive industry, it's pegged to go higher year after year. How are you looking at the kind of policy initiatives that have been taken, and what kind of flows are you expecting to the automotive industry as a whole?
Yeah, so I think automobile industry, as you rightly pointed out, is a significant chunk of our GDP. We have, it's almost like 7.5–8%. And the target in the automotive mission plan, which was revealed a few years earlier, is that it should reach about 12% of GDP. It's a very important sector, not just in terms of volumes and revenues, but also in terms of the employment that it generates, directly or indirectly, almost 40 million or so. So, and it has been gaining good ground, both in exports as well as domestic market. Domestic market now for passenger vehicles is the 5th highest. It's expected to be 3rd highest by 2026. We are almost at 3 million plus this year. And hopefully it's projected that 2030 would probably be 6 million. At the same time, export also have been rising. And we are also the largest in terms of two-wheeler market, tractor market, the second largest in buses and so on. So I think it's a very important sector, and a lot of policy initiatives have been taken by the government, and I would like to congratulate the government for some of the recent initiatives like the PLI scheme, the extension of the FAME 2 scheme, also the support on the scrappage policy. All that is going to help the industry very much, both for bringing in investments, creating jobs, and also for our overall exports, not just cars and vehicles, but also components as well.
And I understand you made it in the nick of time as well right now. Clearly there was some launch going on, Mr. Srivastava.
Yes, so we had the launch of the XL6 today, yes. And it's a aspirational product. Yes. So let me make the sales pitch here as well. It's a great MPV. Maruti Suzuki is leading this segment, hopefully in the future as well.
Well, speaking of aspirational, the person who knows it best, Mr. Dhillon, let's talk about, the kind of demand, because we were discussing just a short while earlier. Everyone is talking about a lull because of a pandemic. No one's really spending. And then you come and tell me that there's massive demand for the very high-end vehicles. Walk us through what trends have been like.
So the demand for last, I think 2 years has been subdued, because of the obvious reasons. But what we're seeing for last about 12 months is there is a constant rush of prospective buyers coming to the market and asking for bigger and bigger cars and more expensive cars. The international travel has not been there. So a lot of people who want to spend money, there is, let's say the money is available within a home. So where else you spend the money? So obviously car is the next topic after housing. People already own houses, so car is the next spend. So I think the demand has been very, very positive, and it is continuing. Of course, you also know that globally what is happening, that is shrinking the supply situation a little bit. But standing today, it's very, very positive, and we are quite upbeat about it. Not just last year was quite fruitful and growth oriented, but this year, first 3 months also have been very positive.
And on that positive note then, Mr. Pradeep, let's also talk about, the EV market, because India is poised to become the 3rd largest market for electric vehicles by 2025. And you've made many strides in this space when it comes to electric buses. Walk us through how you've seen steps that have been taken in this front and some of the recent plans that you've laid out.
Thank you. Government of India has taken a very serious call to convert all these fossil fuel buses to convert into electric by 2030. Though it is a very hard task, Government of India is promoting this with various programs like FAME 1, FAME 2, and has allocated huge amount of support. to promote this electric mobility, especially for the public transport, especially for buses. Government of India has given tremendous amount of attention, and now almost 10,000 buses are being replaced in coming 1.5 years to 2 years. Already we are operating, Olectra Greentech is operating about 600 buses all across the country. About 12 states we are operating. And in the recent past, Government of India has floated a tender for about 5,450 buses with the name Grand Challenge under the FAME program. Likewise, Government of India is giving tremendous amount of attention towards it, and equally, the state governments are also encouraging these electric buses to get deployed in the STUs. Having the fossil fuels creeping up 100 plus per liter, which runs for about 3 kilometers, that is 100 rupees diesel, runs for 3 kilometers, which costs about 35 rupees a kilometer, whereas our electric bus runs with 1 unit of power, which is 5 rupees 75 paise, it runs per kilometer. So that much variation between the fossil fuel as well as electric. Also, it is today's necessity to encourage the electric mobility, especially in the public transport, being all the new electric buses which are coming up are completely air conditioned, no sound pollution, highly comfortable to the people who are traveling in the bus, with which the people who are using the bikes and four-wheelers are getting converted to travel through this public transports. That's the major expectation from the Government of India, which is being fulfilled by this electric mobility.
You know, we haven't seen too many electric vehicles in India, but of course that's changing with that green number plate that we'll start spotting a lot more. And Mr. Srivastava, speaking of EV, while we are seeing a lot of thrust being made on this front, there are also a lot of challenges in terms of moving from ICE to the EV batteries. That requires lithium as well. And I understand that India as a natural resource is very low on that. So do you think that we'll consistently be fairly dependent on China in terms of that? And a two-pronged question, do you think that perhaps the company was a little bit late when it came to entering the EV space?
Yeah, very interesting question. I think very relevant also. So let me try to remove some of the common misconceptions. One is that the EV space, I'm talking of passenger vehicles, generally it is accepted that EVs will become mainstream going forward because the governments generally are more environment conscious. They are supporting the increase of EV vehicles, etc. The consensus, therefore, in the industry is that EVs will become mainstream. There is not a doubt on that. But
it's a matter of when, not if.
Yes, so it is not a matter of whether, it's a matter of when. And there seems to be no consensus on that. Most of the analysts, most of the current predictions for passenger vehicles in India is that by 2030 we'll have roughly a 10 to 12% of EVs. And if you look at if you do a quick calculation, then until that time, India will be selling about 70 million cars, out of which, let's say, 10-12% are EVs, so 63 million cars will still be ICE. And you need to do something about the environment, even pertaining to those ICE vehicles. You can't just say that these will continue as they are. So therefore, what Maruti Suzuki has believed is that probably the road to electric vehicles is electrification. And electrification means you'll have a strong hybrids coming in, which are partly, battery, partly on ICE engine. And talking also of the barriers, you talked of lithium. We always talk in terms of environment as tank to wheel pollution, whereas what we should really be talking about is well to wheel pollution. In India, for example, it's very polluting to produce electricity because we're producing electricity through coal, largely thermal. And we have to see the entire, and there are two constraints for EVs currently. One is the high cost of acquisition because of the battery cost, and second is the charging infrastructure. And I wouldn't say for specific question on Maruti Suzuki whether we are late, because we need to take care of these customer convenience. It's not about bringing the technology or showcasing vehicles, but it's also about offering consumers a practical solution. That's what we are trying to do. Finally, on the lithium question, yes, that material is available in very few countries. China is one of them. So we also need to look at very closely the supply side for the future as to what nearly should be our national strategy for securing the batteries which will be required for if we have to do a large-scale EV conversion.
Chip shortage, I believe, that's the buzzword when it comes to challenges for your industry. How is the situation shaping up at present? What's the company doing to assuage that concern?
So absolutely, I think all the manufacturers globally are facing this challenge. So today, demand is not the problem, supply is the problem. Of course, situation keeps on changing from time to time. As we were coming out of this chip shortage, then this Ukraine situation arrived, and now this lockdown in China. So things are not becoming easy. So this is an evolving situation, and the biggest challenge that we face is predictability. You know, normally automotive works on a very long-term projections where our plannings are running into years and years altogether. However, in the current situation, we are, let's say, able to predict 1 week, 2 weeks, because every car has thousands of components. One component not being there, car is not getting produced. So these are the challenges that we face right now. It is still a challenge, I would say. We thought that this should get over by the first half and second half should be better. But with this new evolving situation, I think it's some more time before we can say the problem is behind us and then we're moving forward without any such trouble. So I think it's going to be there for some more time. Let's see how it is. I mean, chip shortage is one of the problems. You have inflation, you have supply chains because of ships not being available, not just that they're expensive, but not available. So, you know, right now we are going through a very unique phenomena which was never anticipated, let's say, about a year back. So it's a multiple issues. But yes, the positive thing is customers are positive. They're asking for more cars. So we are, whatever we are trying our best to get as many of them as possible and help them serve them.
Mr. Pradeep, you know, your company and companies such as yours are really at the forefront when it comes to technology. And the government as well has done a lot on this front, you know, be it electronic control units, be it flex fuel engines, e-quadricycles, etc. Do you think we have the capabilities in-house to be at the forefront of technology?
Yes.
If I could just request you to hold your mic a little higher.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. Yes, definitely we have that strength and capability and capacity to develop all these products. You might be knowing that several companies in India are developing various products of two-wheelers, three-wheelers and buses. So India has got the best out of best technologies and human resources. We can definitely make these products and which would make the EV sector to the next levels in coming 1 or 2 years. I don't see even more time. 1 or 2 years, this EV sector is going to become a major sector as far as the automobile is concerned.
You know, Mr. Dhillon flagged off some challenges, and I'm going to add to that list, you know, the rising commodity prices. You spoke of inflation, supply chain concerns. There was the pandemic as well, semiconductor shortages, etc. What has been done on this front? Has enough been done? What more needs to be done? And how is the company coping with these challenges?
Yeah, so actually, if you look at the overall volume level, yes, the challenge is actually even bigger for us. Today, if you look at the demand side situation, it's pretty good. If you look at inquiries, booking levels, pretty good. But on the other hand, supply has been an issue. And we have today more than 325,000 bookings which are pending for delivery. So now it's a question of how to tell the consumers to be patient while we try to make efforts to maximize. So we are doing a lot of things to try to minimize this. One of the things is, of course, looking at the specs of the vehicle itself. So you can have spec of the vehicle which is doesn't require as much electronics, for example. That's one. Second is for the more high demand variants, we try to make and prioritize them in terms of production. On the commodity prices front, of course, we try to have more efficiencies, more productivities. For us, price increase is the last option. And therefore, I think companies doing everything possible to try to increase the supply of vehicles. But as Dhillon was mentioning, it's really at this time an issue of supply more than the demand. We will, of course, be looking at other ways of enhancing supplies, which includes, as I said, spec rationalization and so on.
You know, just looking at that timer, we don't have too much time left. So let's talk about the road ahead for the auto industry. What is it that you foresee in terms of where India stands, how you're looking at the luxury market in particular, what the game plan is for Audi going forward?
So just a little bit more beyond Audi. I think all of us know that we have less than 30 cars for every 1,000 inhabitants in the country. That means there is a lot of motorization which is yet to happen. Yes. So it's, again, India has huge potential. It's unbelievable potential. There are, countries where there are 600 cars per 1,000 people. We are talking of less than 30. So there is huge motorization which is yet to happen. So India continues to give us positive opportunities for many, many decades to come. When it comes
but why do you think that is, if I may?
So our diversity across the country, India is rural as well as urban, so density is different in different parts of India. Coming to luxury segment by itself is just about 1% of the four-wheeler segment in India, which itself is very, very small. If you go to any Southeast Asian countries, it will be in this range of 6 to 10, and in some countries it's even as high as 20%. So not only the motorization is yet to happen, but also the luxury space, if it grows by 2, 3, 4%, we see a lot of opportunities for the future. Of course, at this point in time, since the luxury car space is taxed heavily, it's kind of suppressed. But it's a matter of time again. Like we say, it's a question of when it happens. But once it happens, I think we will really explode in terms of the potential that we have in the country. So we believe in India's potential, and we continue to bring more and more products. That is our responsibility and service our customers. But of course, as the taxation becomes more rational, I think the volumes will jump into multiple folds.
Yeah, and as you spoke of that diversification, there are hinterlands as well in which, many people don't even have mechanized two-wheelers, so that continues to remain a challenge. But the road ahead, and Mr. Pradeep, you spoke of policies as well that have been undertaken by the government, FAME, for instance. How are you looking at more initiatives, any challenges that you believe need to be addressed immediately?
Yeah, as of now, as far as the public transport is concerned, yes, whatever the policies that have been designed by the Government of India, that suffice the purpose. In the recent past, we have developed a product, electric tippers, and also we are getting into electric trucks. So these trucks and tippers are going to be the game changers. Now, what we request or what we require is the government support for the electric trucks. Some kind of incentive needs to be provided even to the trucks and tippers, with which great amount of foreign exchequer can be saved. And apart from that, even the private transport, for example, in the private transport, various corporates are in a mood to get converted to electric buses. So now, since the government is promoting the public transport, if the government is incentivizing even for the private buses, so that would become a kind of acceleration for fast replacement of diesel buses or fossil fuel buses with electric. So
Mr. Srivastava, you had something to say about that, I see.
No. I was just wanting to add some spice to the discussion. We are talking of luxury cars and how they are taxed, but what about the smaller cars, which are, we are talking about that 1% cars. This is just to add the spice. But we are talking of more than 50% of smaller cars, where, you know, for different reasons of taxation or regulation or road tax, registration tax, or is becoming a little bit more tighter on the demand side in the smaller and you know, that is the basic pillar of if you want to go for motorization in the country. Yeah. And I think that's very important for us to look at the affordability factor, because the price elasticity of demand for this sector is the highest.
All right, on that note, I think it's our time to break, or should I say completely stop. So thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been a very interesting and insightful discussion. Pleasure having you, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause.
Thank you very much.